for beachgoers. The Levanta, of course, spoiling conditions down on the beaches, but it's certainly ideal for our rowers. Calm conditions both on Saturday evening and Sunday morning, the two times when there were regattas this weekend for the Davis and the Merchants Trophies. And this is Saturday evening's regatta for the Davis Cup, 2,000 metres, though rowed in Yolas. 3 boats in contention, all of them in picture there. In the middle of your picture, that's the Med first crew, comprising Stuart Bensalong at stroke, James Viñales at 3, Tyre Moreno at 2, and Ruben Rodriguez at 1, with Ian McIntosh, the Intrepid, as cox. And they had established quite a lead, really developed into 2 regattas this. Med's first crew pulling ahead very well, and the Calpe first crew on this occasion, that was Shane Shakaluga at stroke, Patrick Cavesuto at 3, Edmund Bensalong at 2, and Keith Bautista at 1, with Paco Aquilina as cox. And Med's second crew for this regatta, that was Jimmy Valerino at stroke, Peter Buttigieg at 3, Stephen Almang at 2, Sigurd Haviland at 1, with Mark Hemme as cox. But the Med first crew clearly in control because of the angle, despite the fact that the other 2 crews seem very close to each other. Calpe's first crew was in fact now clearly ahead of the Med second crew, but though they were making a spirited finish, there was no way that they were going to close that gap before they reached the finish line. There we see them just changing lanes, going ahead of the Med second crew. A lot of supporters, incidentally, staying at the clubs. One thing that I noticed through my binoculars, despite the finish being on the inside of the North Mole, looking back at the clubs, I could see that the verandas on both clubs were full. Spectators cheering their respective clubs on. Of course, they missed the finish, but there's no way that a 2,000-metre course can be laid that will finish in front of the clubs. But now getting very close to the extension jetty, which marks the last few seconds of concerted effort. There we see Med now well into the extension with that red-hulled boat moored to it. And the winning margin, some 3 lengths. The winning time, 7 minutes and 18 seconds. And a good spirited finish from the Med crew, who were keen to re-establish their superiority at this level. The Calpe first crew beat them for the only time this season, the last time that they competed, and now Med were very keen to redress the balance. Calpe second by about 1.5 to 2 lengths ahead of the Med second crew. But then they had it all to do, of course, the following morning as well, because these regattas were in the Yolas. The more technical event is when they have to row again in the Shell Coxed Fours. Those boats much closer to the water than the Yola, which we just saw in close-up. These, in fact, are the Shells for the Merchants' Cup Sunday morning. And still a light easterly, so pretty good conditions, though as the morning was progressing, it was getting just a little bit choppy in the southerly side of the course. And over here, just to run you through the crews, it was 1 change in the first crew for the Med. There we had still Stuart Bensalong at stroke, but now it was Cathal Yates coming in for James Viñales at 3, Tyre Moreno at 2, and Ruben Rodriguez at 1, Ian McIntosh as cox. The crew just crossing your picture, of course, just spectators on this occasion. The Med second crew, that was James Viñales at stroke, Peter Buttigieg at 3, Jimmy Valerino at 2, and Sigurd Haviland as 1, Mark Hemme as cox. And Calpe had 2 crews, the same one which competed as first crew the Saturday regatta, Shane Shakaluga, Patrick Cavesuto, Edmund Bensalong, and Keith Bautista with Paco Aquilina, and a second crew of Alan Darlington at stroke, Luis Tanieto at 3, John Paul Riso at 2, Carlos Mesa at 1, and Andrew Perez coxing a boat for the very first time. But again, it was the Med first crew, just to the right of your picture, who were proving to be the strongest. There were 2 regattas here, really, between the first and second crews respectively. Calpe still quite in it at this stage and beginning to raise the tempo as they attempted to catch their Med counterparts, but Med reacting with a spurt of their own and re-establishing their lead, by this stage now beginning to look comfortable. Behind them, the second crews, as I say, having their own personal regatta. But if you get a close look at these boats, you will see just how technical it is. The oarsmen have to stay very straight, otherwise the boat has a tendency to rock from side to side, and you can find yourself with half your oar out of the water, clearly not as effective. So the oarsmen having to concentrate on their technique a lot more than they would normally have to do in the traditional yolas. But again, reaching the final stages, Calpe closer to Med this time than they had been the previous evening, about 2 lengths, but that's 2 lengths too many as far as Calpe are concerned. And Med, barring an absolute tragedy, were going to win this regatta, and win it they did comfortably in the end in 7 minutes and 13 seconds. That's 5 seconds quicker than the previous evening in the yolas. They had managed to put a little bit more water between them and Calpe in the final stages. You can just about make out now the bow of the Calpe boat coming into picture. Calpe's first crew second. And behind them, the tussle going on for the third place. That between the respective second crews of the club. Quite a way back, as you can see. And Med there coming in third position, winning the battle of the second crews. Ahead of the Calpe second crew, a boat which is somewhat unique in local circles, insofar as the cox, you can just make him out there, sits in front of the oarsman and not at the back, as in the rest of the shell-coxed fours. But at the end of the day, it was Med's weekend, the Med first crew in particular. They were keen to stamp their authority on the season, and they did that, and they did it in style. And there we leave you with these pictures of the Med first crew, triumphant yet again.